I was thinking about another primer for the perplexed about the right now that you're walking away from the Democratic Party, and that the more you walk away, the more you're like, wow, there's some really strange shit happening in the Democratic Party. They really insist on like dying on that hill. And then you're like, why would, and it's you will be going through this thing of why would they want to die on that hill? Like, right, say the gun looks scary argument, they always die on this hill. Well, but scary weapon makes me scared. And they go, well, too bad. And then why would you be scared of scary weapon if you live someplace safe, like where most Republicans live, and that where most Democrats control is extremely unsafe. If you're in a place that's very unsafe, you're in a place that's governed by Democrats probably for a couple generations. So at some point it has to become like this thing of like, that it's repeatedly this same argument over and over again. Why don't you just make where you live safer? Now that has happened. That happened before. In the 90s, that happened. There was 3 strikes and you're out in California. The streets were incredibly safe. People went from dressing in Dickies and Ben Davis head to foot looking like a fucking construction worker no matter what fucking job you had. And what did they end up doing? They ended up wearing, the kids were dripping in Tommy Hilfiger. By 1995, I swear to God, you would think that like Tommy Hilfiger was being sold at Ross or something. It was so many people were dripping in Tommy Hill. In 1995, kids dripping in that shit. I couldn't imagine the cell phones that I saw in the late 90s with like that high school kids had. Remember how they would blink and they would have all kinds of crazy ringtones and Netsuke hanging off of them? Yeah. So all of this stuff about you need to control guns to keep people safe. No. Democrats like criminals. A big part of why Democrats even have their approach to humans is the excusing of criminal behavior, the excusing of deviant behavior, the excusing of mental deviance and insanity. That it's everybody has to help the crazy person. Everybody has to help insano. Everybody has to understand, Abu rapist. Everybody has to understand Tyrone the carjacker. It's just this thing that it's a sickness. And so something that really started to come out of those of us who left the left is we started to really put together the pattern of people who we hung out with and typically who we had some kind of falling out with about something, usually Trump or COVID or crime, and that you finally realized like this person, they were a Tupac fan, they were just this hopeless, miserable person that really has this very demented view of the world that everybody's on the come up at all times. So they're thinking like a criminal. They think that the only way you succeed is by scamming people. That nobody makes their money honestly. This is why so many of these people resented Donald Trump. That no matter how you think about his money or anything like that, he did make his money in the field that he did. There's people who desperately need him to be this very criminal person. It's because that's them. They can't exist in a world that somebody somewhere is the honest winner. They can't. Nothing. There's just that's not the real world for them. And they're most likely criminals who like criminality. They like those kind of people. They want a world of chaos. They think that that's honest. They think that beating people up and stealing and intimidation and chaos and graft and all that, they think that that's real, and so they hate, like the Giuliani period. They hated that period. But now the funny part is they liked not seeing the porn stores all over Times Square. But they didn't like what it took to get those out of there. Yeah, it's very interesting what government solutions they tend to like and what government solutions they don't, and especially when it's the people widely voted for this. These are the people that are a big part of believing that the Central Park 5, that all that was proven to be a bunch of bunko, and not only was it not, but this was an argument that even happened at the time, that these kids were intimidated and all this stuff. And it's like, no, actually they weren't. No, actually the most horrifying aspect of this is how heartlessly these people argued their innocence, and then on top of it, for all that time kept arguing that they had nothing to do with shit when people saw them. There were witnesses. So it doesn't matter that there were witnesses to Mike Brown doing what he did, and that there was, and they were like, no, Mike Brown didn't have his hands up, but no, because you see, that just fits with what people who like criminals and people who just like chaos. And so then we started to figure out that this goes back to a deep resentment of authority. Usually this means that the person had a shit dad. 9 times out of 10, when you really, the dude wasn't either around, or he's just kind of shit. He's just kind of a wimp, or a drug addict, or permissive, or something. But that's what ended up happening. And this took years. This took years and years and years, like almost a decade, because there was like a dude who you're going to hear about, maybe as you walk away, you're going to hear about this man named Stefan Molyneux, the Canadian anarchist. And he was one of the most important people in the entire, on the planet, for the Trump revolution to even be able to occur. He got the first true wave of walking away, where people, that because he exposed, oh yeah, Che Guevara, here's the story of Che Guevara's life, with all the ugly parts included, with all the ugliest parts included, such as when he raped a woman in front of a bunch of people at a dinner party, and then just went back to eating like nothing happened. It was at a restaurant. He just raped the waitress. That's the kind of guy Che Guevara really was. Vicious, hater of black men, black Latinos. And so Stefan really made a lot of people have to look at themselves. One of his videos that you can't find anymore on YouTube was, "Are you built for war or rape?" And it got into, if you have these kind of psychological things, that if you do these things, it is because your mind is starting to, you become a fast life type of person. And that's the world of of Mohammed, of somebody who just destroys everything he comes across unless everybody submits to him, and then the women are left alive to be spread around his homies, to be passed around. Are you one of these people? And then there's women who it's no, women survived all this in our species. Are you becoming one of those women who does whatever it takes to survive? And a lot of people don't. This is to this day, this is a very uncomfortable subject. In the Manosphere, one of the best things written about this is a book that the Manosphere that you're going to encounter brings up, called they call it Briefolt's Law. Well, the book that comes from is a very, very, very good book that gets into how really Christian marriage is relatively odd. This idea of staying with one person for your entire life, for better or for worse, and all this stuff, that's slightly odd. slightly odd, and for compared to how humans bred across the species, and he evidences this very well. The thing is, though, is he gets across humans are still built to move backwards. There is no such thing as progress. Humans will always revert backwards. That's what the progressives and Marxists really are tapping into. The most savage part of humans from prior to civilization and prior to history. That's what they want. They want a world of just peasant slaves, and hence you can even see this with how they treat the illegal immigrant issue. There's nothing. No, their constituents are saying, send them back. They're shouting, send them back. And what do these people do? They look their constituents in the face, look their black constituents in the face and say, once we get these people jobs, everything will be fine. The law doesn't apply to them. The law only applies to you blacks, you stupid white people. All you stupid idiots who are from here who have rights. These people don't have rights. We can make them do whatever we want. Why don't you see this? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll give them jobs. Yeah, jobs. Yeah, well, I think we could tax it. We could tax. Don't make drugs legal, and then we could tax it. Gee. And then old ladies won't have to save their money, because there will be plenty of tax money for all of whatever we need in our retirement. Key criminal mind. The criminal mind of somebody will go along with whatever savage ravages my village. I'll do whatever it takes to survive. That's so be noble, be honorable, be right wing.